So extremely appreciative of having you here. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Ayla. Yes, can you hear me? No? Ah, yes, this one? On now?
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ayla. And I can only encourage you to go and look at the SGC website that we developed with ISA, and just Google SGC ISA, and you will find it, and it's really great. And show you what space is doing in your everyday life. I would like, before I take out my mask, that you look at my mask. I'm very proud of it. This was designed by teenagers, you see, who are passionate about space. And this is actually very much linked to what I'm going to tell you now, a bit in my speech. So I'm going to take it out. Of course, it will be a bit easier to talk to you, but as you can see, it's really a brilliant idea of them. They have designed it, they produced it, they were 14 years old, and they came for a conference. We lectured them. They are just amazing people. And I'm sure you're also amazing and passionate about space like they are. So as I said, I'm now in the strategy department, very much concentrating on building partnerships with non-space businesses. And also, of course, apart from that, it's taking 100% of my time. We have a council at ministerial level to prepare, and I'll come back to that later. Today, my speech will be really to take you through, because not all of you know exactly what ESA is, just a very brief introduction on what ESA is, the European Space Agency, and then really tell you what are our prospects for the future and what is now, I mean, what is the burning situation now, the Agenda 2025 of our ESA Director General. This is really the thing we are developing now. So let's say the medium-term vision, and we have also a long-term vision, which I will also draft very briefly. But please do stop me if I talk too much. This is one of my very much drawbacks, many drawbacks I have. But briefly about ESA. So we are an intergovernmental organization. We have now 22 member states. And you can see, I'm sorry, there are those little panels, but if you look above, I'm sure you can see below that there are some flags. So we have 22 member states, and we have some cooperating states, and you see here maybe Estonia, Lithuania, Slovenia. These are our associate member states, we call them, and we have one cooperating state, which is Canada. It's the will of Canada to cooperate with us, and probably because they prefer, to cooperate with Europe. I'm sure they have also cooperations with NASA, but they come to our council meetings, etc. So our budget, as you can see, is not huge. It's 7 billion euros from 22 member states. And it represents, and this is something in general the European citizen has really difficulties in believing, it represents only 12 euros per European citizen. So it's not even in Europe. I know you all come from very different countries, but in Europe it's not even the price of a cinema ticket. So you go to the movie theater and you pay 40 euros. So it is really something which is very, in your taxes, the taxes of Europeans, very little, and at the same time, which has a very big impact. From the moment you wake up in the morning, you take your iPhone and you look at the weather forecast. You want to use your navigation system, I will not say GPS, because as you know, as from iPhone number 8, it's not only GPS, but also Galileo, which is on your iPhone. So you use the navigation. This is thanks to space system. Even going on LinkedIn is thanks to space system. So we exist since 1975, and nowadays our workforce is approximately, including our contractors, we are 5,500 across several establishments in Europe. Of course, we have one office in Washington, but not so many people, like 50 people, and the same in Russia. But otherwise, most and also, most of our establishments are inside Europe. Technical center is in Holland, where I've been working 6 years in Thailand, for example, as a operations engineer, as I said. And then we have as well my colleagues here, Jan and Holger, are from the European Space Operations Center, which is Launchpad. And we have also the Technical Center in Holland, Operations Center in Launchpad, and then we have the Earth Observation Center, which is Italy. We have a Science Center, which is Madrid, and Astronaut Center, Cologne, etc. And I will also not forget, of course, the Telecommunication Center, which is in Houwen and close to Oxford. Okay, so this is just to give you an idea of who we are and how big we are. So now this is, we cover more or less all the areas in comparison to other agencies, space agencies. We are really, there is only one area we're not touching, which is the defense area. But otherwise, we are in transportation. So as you can see, this is the last one. You saw probably the launch of the Ariane 6. I was not maybe quick enough to show it to you. Maybe I can go back, and I don't know if it works. And I would like to show you. Yeah. So you see here, you have the configuration with 4 boosters of Ariane 6, but I'll come back to that afterwards. So we do transportation, but we do, of course, science and exploration, and this is also something we want to focus on in the next years. The applications. This is typically what we do as well for the SDGs. I mean, to respond to the challenges, global challenges, etc. We need applications using space technologies applied on Earth to help us maybe in telemedicine, teleeducation, climate change actions, etc., etc. So this is it's a domain which is really expanding a lot. And safety and security, I'm sure Jan and Holger have told you a lot about safety and security for those who are in the working group of Jan, because not all of you were there. I'll come back to it shortly on it. But basically, we're talking about safety and security, of course, on Earth. So for the European citizen and the whole world, the whole humanity, but also security and safety in space. So on Earth from space, so space assets helping us to secure the European citizens' security, but also safety and security of our space assets. And I'll come back to that later. So these are our 4 pillars. These really are 4 programmatic domains where we are very active now, and where we want to put an emphasis in the next future. So now I go directly to what our Director General has been drafting since he arrived in March, which is his Agenda 2025. Every time the new Director General comes, they have a new agenda. They have like a kind of midterm term. They're nominated for 4 years. So in general, they come and they plan these 4 years. And this agenda basically is tackling a lot, is very much linked to societal challenges we are facing today. And so first, he came to the point, and he had been working, he was the former, Josef Aschbacher was the former head director of Earth observation. And as you know, there is a great program within ESA called Copernicus, which is an environmental tracking kind of system, like we send Sentinels spacecraft, which look at the temperature of the surface of the water oceans, or which look at how much methane there is in the air, how much dioxide of azote you have in the air, etc., etc. So pollutions, oceans temperatures, oceans risings, etc. So he has been working. Copernicus is a flagship program from the European Commission, and he was very much working with them. And he came to the conclusion that for the time being, we are not working as efficiently as we could with the European Commission. So we definitely want to strengthen the work together with them, with EU relations. I'll come back to that, how we did it and how we're implementing it today. The second point is that if you look at all the opportunities given by the space industries, and I'll come back to that afterwards, that we really need to strengthen the commercialization part. and commercialization towards a more, let's say, green and digital economy. This is what we want to achieve. And this is also in line, by the way, with what the European Union is doing now. You've heard probably about the Green Deal. The Green Deal, you can Google it, I mean, it's really a policy they want to implement now. And we are going to be, let's say, privileged partners of the European Union. The third point, safety and security. You see, it was one of the pillars, and it's definitely something he wants to put an emphasis on. You saw what Donald Trump, and President Macron have done. President Macron has created le commandement de l'espace. Donald Trump, the Space Force, the USA Space Force. And so there is definitely a kind of fear. Is space going to become a place of conflict? What is sure is that we, ESA, it is inside our convention. We are not allowed, we are here only for peaceful purposes. So we will never do defense projects. Okay, so the national agencies, of course, every country is of course dealing maybe even on a bilateral level with other countries, but we are not within ESA. The 22 member states have convened from the beginning, from the start when we existed in 75, that there will be no defense project. So we're only here for peaceful purposes to bring the benefits of space to the European citizens. So, but nevertheless, this doesn't preclude that we cannot protect the European citizen. This doesn't preclude that we cannot also protect our space assets. And I'll come back to that later as well. And this is just a small summary. And then, well, of course, we are facing some programmatic challenges. I'll tell you which they are. And last, if we want to face all those programmatic challenges, this new way of working with the European Union, and also with private partners through the commercialization of space, well, then we have to transform ourselves. And so we're transforming the way we're working with the others outside, but we have to transform as well inside. And inside, this is the ESA transformation. And I think it's not only digitalization, but it's also the people have to, there's really a wish of transforming mentalities, but also getting the right people to come and work with us. Okay, so I like those two flags, they're together, because it's not that we have always been cooperating extremely well with the European Union, because basically of delays we had on some projects, etc. But now there's really a wish to really work hand in hand. And there's even a wish to create integrated teams. This is something that our Director General is thinking of. So maybe integrated teams, ESA, half ET, working either in Paris or in Brussels or wherever is required for a flagship program that we will be doing together with the EU. So basically what is going to happen now, we have been able to sign, after a lot of months of negotiations, I have to say, the new financial framework partnership agreement with the European Union. And it was signed on the 22nd of June. And it also, as you can see here, there is a new entity called the EU Space Program Agency, which is a bit, encompassing what the GSA was doing as well beforehand. And we are, I'm looking as well at the time. Am I talking too much, or is it still? How much time do I still have?
With questions, about 10.
10 minutes with questions? Oh my God, so I need to rush. Sorry, guys. Okay, so very quickly. So here you see Thierry Breton and my Director General, Joseph Ashbacher. They signed a joint letter. It was signed in March to say we want to cooperate together. And at long last, we were able to sign on the 22nd of June. So it's quite fresh, you see. It's not very old, huh? This framework agreement, partnership agreement, and it was also the day of the creation of the EU Space Program Agency. So these are key features of what is included in this partnership agreement, what we want to do. So continuing on Galileo's second generation, but here you can see there is the public regulated services, which is a part which is very much security related. Okay, so we're talking to other actors now, huh? And we will be also supporting them in that. There will be also the completion of the first generation Copernicus Sentinels. We still have to launch some Sentinels from the first generation, but also the procurement of 6 new Sentinels. So we're extending the missions, okay? And we will also be involved in GovSatCom, which is also very much security related to ensure good satellite communications in a very secure manner. And we will nevertheless be involved again as a technical partner of the European Union. Okay, so that was the first point, huh? You remember, strengthening ESA-EU relationship in the Agenda 2025. The second point in the Agenda 2025 is really boost, as I told you, green and digital commercialization. So basically why, if you do the state of the art, you see that you go to the US and you see that space commercialization represents already 5.1 billion euros. We made a projection for 2040. In 2040, we have assessed that the space industry could represent a gain of $1 trillion. $1 trillion, can you imagine? And for the time being, I mean, if we want to be part and to have a piece of the cake in Europe, and we have the technical competences, well, then we need to also bake a bit, the cake up front. So we need to help them. And therefore, and this is just in 2019, and you see the numbers. I mean, we are supporting only 188 million for the commercialization, whereas in the US, it's not comparable. The numbers are even not comparable. But okay, it's important that we know it in Europe, and therefore we've put 3 lines of action. So of course we want to attract new talents like you, and you're the younger generation. But the second point is really also ease them, make the access to capital easier. So how do you do that? There's 2 indicators I would say. Like first, create more public demand of space programs, etc. But on the other side, ease the access to capital to investors. So what are we going to do? We ESA. We are going to partner again as technical partners with venture capitalists, with business angels, to help those startups, those SMEs, to really invest in new space applications, which can make a difference, and also maybe become also an industry, a well-established industry. So this was the second point. So ease the access to capital. And the last point is really, we have also to speed up innovation, because for the time being, we are a big dinosaur. We are a very well-established company, agency, sorry, and indeed our times, for example, times to contract, when we have a put-in-place contract, are very long, etc. And we're trying now really to reduce the times to contract. For example, for contracts underneath 1 million, we want to do it really in a very short time. So this is going to be very much more dynamic. We have also, so this is more for the procurement part, so make the procurement of contracts much easier. But on the technical side, we have, for example, put in place, where I'm working now in the observation center, we have put in place Free Lab, where we are getting, brilliant researchers, brilliant postdocs. We want to put in place a science hub where we get also PhD students. I'm also talking to people here who might be interested in joining the adventure with us. And we will thus be, encouraging really breakthrough innovation through those field labs where people are working together. It's really a great place. It's an open space, and people are really very cooperative in this space and working on let's say, disruptive themes and innovation themes. Okay, so this is one example. Okay, and the third point in the agenda is, as I said, safety and security. So I mentioned basically safety and security in space for space assets. So therefore, a space traffic management policy is very important, that all countries as well agree on it, etc. I will not talk too much about debris removal and mitigation, because I know that you had a great presentation by my colleagues, Jan and Holger. But of course, you can also imagine that space weather events can be very harmful, and we have to monitor them, and they can jeopardize our assets, etc. But we're also talking about security from space, and this is very important for the European citizen and the citizen, the humanity as a whole. And therefore, we are also engaged in a high-altitude platform system to bring really connectivity, which is very stable to remote regions, etc. And within the European Commission flagship program, which is called Secured Connectivity, we will also be working together hand in hand with them on this flagship program to ensure secured communication and also rapid response to Earth observation threats happening, typically comets, etc. So this is really crisis management. And I'll come back to that very briefly at the end. The fourth point in the agenda is to solve critical program challenges. We will not tackle all of them in the next 4 years, of course. There are two really directions the Director General wants to take. First is on our independent access to space, so really space transportation. And as you can see here, we are continuously enhancing our set of launchers. So here you have BST, so there will be a maiden flight hopefully next quarter, beginning 2022, and Ariane 6 as well, which we are developing. And you have here the two configuration of Ariane 6 with 2 boosters and 4 boosters, depending on what we want to launch. What is interesting here is that, again, we are going to cooperate with the European Commission. There was a desire already now. Okay, well, I started late as well. I have put my timer here to see if I'm talking too much. Yeah, 20 minutes. It's true. Okay, sorry, guys. I hope you're not sleeping though, because I know after lunch it's. Well, what I think a message which is important here is that you see that we are not cooperating with the EU. This is very new, and we have the intention of developing a launcher alliance together with the EC. So this will be an initiative not only with IU but together ESA and the EC to develop the new launchers of the future after 2030. So we are developing these, but the new ones will be together with the EC. This is at least the intention, what we want to do. What is important here, but okay, I'm sure I'll get some questions, but never mind, I say it. So, okay, reusable launchers, SpaceX. So, well, we are working on reusable techniques. So we are working, I don't know if you've heard, but you can also look at it on the internet. We're working on THEMIS. THEMIS is the first stage of a launcher. So this will be a reusable first stage, and also on propulsion, like reusable propulsion, like the Prometheus, which will use as for propulsion. I think it will be using like liquid oxygen and methane. But you can maybe look at it on the internet to ensure that what I'm saying is correct. I think that's it, and this will also be it's a very low cost propulsion system. So, and it will be reusable. Okay, so this was the little part on reusable. And last is to complete ESA's transformation, and this is thanks to you as well, because you are the seed of the new engineers who are going to give a fresh breath to our organization, and also to the fact that you have also to attract, I think, really already the students, because you are already convinced. I'm preaching convinced people here, so I'm preaching my parish. But it's not good we and you basically should go back to your universities and or even to your, I would say, even elementary schools or even, you know, yes, secondary schools and convince women, young girls, young boys to go in STEM. And this is something we should not do at university. It's already too late because they already chose, you know, their path. So we should really try to do it upfront, you know, already at in even why not ground school, you know, making them dream, and then in secondary school as well. Okay, so this is really my conclusion, and I promise it's 2 slides more if you can bear with me. Why? It's because I told you, I talked to you, this is what we're doing now, is the Agenda 2025, and what we want to do, the prospects in the future are these accelerators, okay? How did we come to these accelerators? The DG, he arrived in March, as I told you, signed the letter with Mr. Breton, but also had an idea. We have to do something for Europe, you know, not think only European Commission, ESA, but Europe as a global entity, you know, we are humanity, and even to think about the world. So we said, let me put in place a group of wise men, so he called it the high-level advisory group, composed of people like former ESA director generals, but also other space agents, national space agencies director generals, but also scientists, you know, at Persona, etc. People well known in the space domain, let them be scientists, engineers, heads of space agencies. And this wise men group, he asked them, tell me, what do you see for challenges? You know, what is our ambition? Where should we develop, you know, in the next future? Okay, now I know the Agenda 2025, this is what I will be doing medium term, but let's be more visionary. And they came up with 3 ambitions, which he called the 3 accelerators. I call them ambitions, but okay. The first one is space for the Green Deal. Green Deal, this rings a bell, this is the EU. This is the EU wish. But it's not only the EU, I mean, it's our wish to all of us, because climate change and climate action is definitely a problem for us. And basically, what we will be doing in this first accelerator is, just to give you an example, how to solve the problem of climate action is going to be a bit difficult, but what we intend to do is to use space data combined with in-situ environmental data to produce a model called Digital Twin Earth. I don't know about it, but this Digital Twin Earth will allow us to simulate our past with all the data we have gathered, our present, and also to do what carbon neutral. So it's also helping the EU to get their carbon neutral footprint. And then the second ambition is a rapid and resilient response to crisis on Earth. We all have been suffering from the pandemic in different ways. And basically, I think this was a good lesson learned for us to say we are not reactive enough. We have to be more reactive. And this is basically as well, you know, putting in place an interconnected network, an interconnected platform within Europe to help us basically respond quickly to, for example, a cyber attack or you know, jeopardizing a pipeline, and then or jeopardizing a hospital or whatever. And this is, if we have really an interconnected network, it will work well. And this is also a bit in line with what the EC wishes to do with their secure connectivity flagship program. Last but not least, again, protecting our space assets. Again, I will not come back on it, but you might know that we have, I think, more than 36,000 of objects bigger than a tennis ball around the Earth, and only 13% of them are being monitored. So 36,000 objects, 13% only being monitored. You can imagine how much threats these represent for our satellites and our space assets. So this is also something we would like to be able to monitor ad hoc. So we would like to be put in place a real-time system to monitor them. Okay, so my conclusion is we have 3 accelerators, but we also have 2 inspirators. And these inspirators are, we want to keep Europe as a leader in science exploration and technology. We are already at a high level, but we are still continuing deep science exploration, deep space exploration. We are going, for example, with our mission JUICE. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's the Jupiter, icy moons mission, and these are very challenging missions, which will also make people dream, and these are inspirational parameters. And next, we of course need to make people even younger than you dream to go in and study in the STEM and join us in this big adventure. Here you see a man walking on Mars. This is definitely what we would love to be doing in the 2050s. We already are negotiating now with NASA for 2030 to be able to send a man on the moon, a European, sorry, not a man, European on the moon, and hopefully we will be successful. And this is my last slide in my conclusion, just to tell you that basically, as I told you at the beginning, we have a council at ministerial level, which decides on our budget in 2022. We are now in 2021. We have started the political process with the EC. We are talking to different stakeholders with the private area, private businesses, and hopefully we will have a space summit next spring, which will also help us prepare the ESA Ministerial Conference, where we'll be talking about new flagships together with the European Commission and other stakeholders, all together, hands in hand, to prepare really the European Space Agency's programs of the future, to be a bit more visionary. So these are the flagships program. I've been going a bit through some of them now. Hopefully, I'm quite confident we are going to be successful in that. I thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to take some questions if I still have time or no. 2 minutes?
Yeah, like we can take like 2 very quick questions.
So I was just an individual listening to a talk that's really about the entire European Space Agency and the European Union. What do you think our main takeaways should be? Like, what do I do with all the discussion about like really high level entire organization?
So at my level, as a person, I'm not sure I didn't understand the question, so maybe stay close by. So at my level, as an employee of ESA, you mean what would I do, knowing what is going on between ESA and EU, or?
Well, really what I mean is, and this is a theme throughout the entire Space Generous Congress, is sometimes like I'm a student and I listen to these talks on very high level, plans for the entire ESA. Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah.
What do you think should be our main takeaway as students to bring back to our own countries or schools?
Yes. So your main takeaway for me is that, and this is something which is really something which concerns us all, which is really like what is happening with the climate change and etc. And my main takeaway, I was personally quite positively surprised to see that, okay, now we are definitely working hand in hand as one Europe, and not ESA on one side, EC on one side. We are really definitely striving to work together because there is an urgency. And the urgency is this climate action, okay, that you have to put in place. There is a pan, I don't know how it's called, it's an intergovernmental group which was put in place for climate. It's called in French GIEC, Groupe Intergouvernemental de l'Environnement. And it's in English, it has another name, it starts with P. But anyhow, it's an intergovernmental thing with highly ranked scientists all over the world. And their last report was very, I was a bit desperate when I read it. I didn't read it all, but I read the conclusions. They were saying that whatever we will do, like even what we did during lockdown, we stopped everything, okay? We stopped using everything, cars, etc. Even then, we would gain, even if you stopped living, so to say, using your car, whatever, even then you would gain 2 degrees by 2050. So I was like, but then what I was doing all this for? But then I thought, okay, but then maybe it's even worse if you don't do anything. So my main takeaway is to say that at long last, now we are starting to work hand in hand to try to solve global societal challenges. I mean, it's not, thinking of the pride of this organization or the pride of this one. No, there are other urgencies now to deal with. This is my main takeaway. Thank you.
All right, sorry, we don't have time for any more questions right now.
But you can address me afterwards.
Yeah. And thank you so much again for joining us. We're very happy to have you here. A lot of the topics you mentioned really resonated with what we've been discussing in all the working groups. That's really great. So thank you again, and everyone. So you can all start to head over back to your working groups. We'll have 20 minutes for presentation prep, and then we'll meet back here in 20 minutes. Thank you.
Okay.